Town of Northeast to order. I would like to ask you to join me in a pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tilly, could you conduct a roll call, please?
Yes. Supervisor Kennan,
Here.
Councilman Fideli,
Here.
Councilman Midwood,
Here.
Councilwoman Morrison, here, Councilman Cooper.
Here. Okay, we have an agenda for the evening. I would like to amend the agenda to add that we have two sets of minutes for approval under item number 12. Minutes of the 10th of March and minutes of the 16th of March. With that amendment, I would like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Since we have the police department here, why don't we not take up your time listening to us and get your report.
Take more cash when we get back today. So in front of you, you have the March 2022 stats. There's a total of 42 calls, 17 were in the town, 25 were in the village. There were no arrests. Comparing that to March 2021, there were 22 calls in the village, 6 in the town, and 2 arrests.
Mhm. So this is the month of March.
That is correct.
Mhm. And are you finding that it feels like the number of calls, even though we're sort of out of COVID, is pretty similar to last year, or is it?
I mean, it's been steady. You can compare. I wrote the numbers on the back there.
Yeah.
You can see
Mhm.
our arrests are down. The rest, not just us in general, it's been throughout the county.
Mhm.
The rest have been down. The calls are about the same.
Right, okay, so the 2022, you totaled them,
Correct.
right?
This system, the one that the village wanted, it doesn't total them for you like the other one we did. We manually typed that one
Right.
up. So I just wrote the bottom, the numbers
Okay.
on there and went through and counted them up. So.
All right.
Any questions on the incidents?
Anybody on the board have any particular questions? I think we'll take the opportunity to look at this, and as you know, we and the village have been trying to post these on the website. I think what we've got at the moment is the most recent month gets posted.
Okay.
I don't think there's a history, but it's just the most recent month.
Okay. Perfect.
Great,
And a lot of people want to see them, so.
yeah, it's there, if you can find it.
Yeah,
You have to dig around a little bit.
a lot of stuff in there.
All right,
Perfect.
thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Find my other notes. Where did they go?
You want to use this now?
Yeah, actually, I've got one because I've got some stuff written at the top of it. Well, it's all right. I will use that one. Yeah. Here's some. No, this is the tax returns. First of all, welcome everybody to our April board meeting. And as I have always often done, I wanted just to comment on the pandemic or the endemic, whatever you want to call it at this point. As we all know, the numbers certainly in the county have gotten much better, and we have been able to go back to something close to normal in town hall, where we're happy to be able to meet in person. The county statistics have been very far down. They have gone up since mid-March. The number that the county tracks most closely is the number of new cases per 100,000 people. And that number was very, very high around the end of the year. And it plummeted. It went way down to about 9 cases per 100,000 people. And it's now, in the last month, doubled. So while it's not anywhere near the number that it was, there's what we've seen elsewhere, we're seeing here, which is an increase in the number of COVID cases. So we are going to track that very closely and pay attention to that. As people who are watching this on not on Facebook,
Zoom.
but on Zoom, may notice that it looks a little different this time. And to people who are here in the boardroom, it looks a little different because we have this curious looking gadget sitting in the middle of the table that is a camera and a microphone and has the ability, because it is an owl, to see everybody in the room and to record everybody in the room. So hopefully this will move us forward in enabling people who are not able to be with us in town hall to at least observe our town board meetings, and hopefully when we work the kinks out of this to be able to participate in board meetings as well. I would like to thank Councilman Midwood very much and Meg Winkler, who both have worked on researching this technology and made the trek up to the town of Ancrum Town Hall to see their owl in action. And particularly want to thank John for setting it up tonight and getting it working. So we'll see how this goes and move forward with it.
Thanks.
I would also then moving on, I'd like to talk about the highway garage project. We have signed contracts for construction of the new highway garage. Those contracts were signed on Monday of this week, and construction is expected to begin at the site next month. And we received a preliminary schedule for the construction, which suggests that the foundation will be poured this year before freezing weather sets in. And with any luck, we will be able to see the structure up by the end of the year. It would be great to get it up and get it enclosed, because at that point, work can be done inside the building during the winter. What is particularly good news is that we have put out an RFP for financing, for short-term financing of the highway garage. And we solicited bids for a bond anticipation note of $3.9 million. And we received bids on that. And the winning bid was awarded to Salisbury Bank with an interest rate of 0.69%. That is a terrific interest rate. And I'm really pleased that we're going to be able to save the town a lot of money on this particular financing. The Climate Smart Task Force has been making a ton of progress. And at our board meeting in May, I would like to take some time to talk in more detail about what they have done. But just so you know that the task force led by Kathy Chow has submitted 25 or 26 different actions that were called for under the Climate Smart program of New York State. And for a total of 155 potential points towards being certified as a bronze level climate smart community. We need 120 to get there. So we're hoping, fingers crossed, hoping that we will have more than enough. But stay tuned, there will be an announcement in May, hopefully just in time for Earth Day. We have, I will talk about the housing mini grant program in the beginning of the rest of the agenda. I want to say a word or two about problems with Central Hudson, because I've received a lot of phone calls from people saying that they've had problems of one type or another, particularly with Central Hudson's billings. And Central Hudson has put out a variety of press releases, which we've received, which I think they've sent most of that information to customers as well. They went to a new billing system and it has had many hiccups. So that while in theory, people were often having a bill followed the next month by an estimated bill, I know that there are a number of people who went for quite a number of months on only estimated bills. And that when they got an actual bill, they felt it did not correspond accurately to the usage. I know that Central Hudson is very aware of this. There's been discussion of this at the county level and in other towns. And it is something that we have been discussing at the county Mayors and Supervisors Association meetings. So I will report back to that. You on that. Lastly, a program which we have been invited to apply for is a conservation overlay training and assistance program offered by Cornell and New York State DEC. It is a program which will help us understand and use conservation overlays in our zoning work. And if we are successful, Edie, who's here tonight, and Bill Kish and Rich Stalzer, who's here tonight, and I will be participating in monthly meetings that are offered by this program. It's aimed at communities in the Hudson River estuary. And we're very happy that a portion of that estuary is within the town of Northeast. I would like then now to move on to committee reports. Bob, in terms of highway, how are things?
Things are very good, actually.
We always like to hear that.
Yes. We have the shared bucket truck for the month of April, so we're very busy with that. And
where will we be using that?
we're spending a lot of time on Smith's Misery Road. Then we're going to move to Lower Mill and Morrisville.
Okay, and this is for cleaning up the drainage ditches?
So this is for taking down dead trees.
Okay.
Trimming trees.
Okay. All right. There are a lot of them up there on Smith's Misery.
Lots,
Yeah.
unfortunately, especially with the diseases, the ash and everything.
Right. Yeah. I've had a few calls from people who noted that there are still signs and rain curtains up from the construction on Smithfield Road, the culvert replacement on Smithfield Road and on McGee Hill Road.
Mm-hmm.
Have we heard anything from the county about when they plan to get that stuff out?
Yes, I did check with them. They told me the contractor is coming back to some more work on the bridge when things dry up. And then as soon as they get done with that work, they will be picking everything up.
Okay, so do you think that sounds like it could be within the next month?
I would say May, I expect them back probably in May.
Okay, great. Very good. Anybody on the board have a question? No?
Thank you.
Our assessor is here, Catherine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right spot.
yeah, you're in a good spot.
Okay. Hello, everybody. So just here to update as our assessment roll is going. As I've been saying for the last few months, we're embarking on a project this year because of the significant increases in the real estate market. We're having to move our assessments pretty significantly this year. And I've been doing analysis for the last few months and reporting back to you our findings. And I'm here to report that my analysis is complete and my role is finally at the point where I'm ready to send it out. And it basically ended up how I talked about last month. That residential properties will be moving 12%. And commercial and vacant properties will be moving 7%. This is still pretty conservative as our initial estimates, as I had said, from the state analysis were more like 14% on residentials and 12% on vacants. So I worked with them, showed them what I had, showed them what I was looking at on a more local level, and they agreed with me and they've approved me at these assessment numbers. So I'm very pleased that we could get a little bit under the wire. But still, it's across the board. It's every corner of town and the village. All types of properties are getting it hit. So we're all kind of in the same boat because of this massive real estate market that's happening, not only in our town, across the county, across the state, across the country. So we're just following the trends and trying to keep up with it. So our assessments remain at 100% of market value. That's super important for us, just for clarity, for transparency, people understand the numbers better. And it does give us some perks to the state when we stay at those numbers. As I said, it's all been submitted and approved by the Office of Real Property Tax Services. So my tentative roll is basically complete. It won't be officially published until May 1st. That's the official date that the across the state they get published. But I have prepared assessment change notices and they are ready to be mailed out tomorrow. So people have a couple extra weeks to digest the information, take a look at it, and then May 1st, when all of them are published, you look at your neighbors and across the county and see that, yes, everybody else is in the same boat as you are. It will be, when it's published on May 1st, it will be here in my office, it will be posted at the town clerk's office, and it will be posted online. There'll be a link on our website as usual, and at the county website, so everyone will have an opportunity to take a peek. I also, starting in May, will have extended hours on top of my regular office hours for anybody that has questions. I know this is, pretty big number, 12%, you throw it around, but when you actually look at the numbers, as we were printing the notices, I said, wow, those are some pretty hefty numbers. So when you see it, it's gonna be a shock. But again, I want to emphasize that everybody's in the same boat, and if everybody's going up the same amount, same rates, then the tax burden is still spread out amongst us the same way. So that's really what it tells us, is that your tax bill, and that's where it boils down to, even though I'm not charging taxes, it all boils down to your tax bill. It should remain, all things being equal, it should remain about the same as last year, because we're all going up the same amount. In fact, I ran a few numbers on taxable values, because assessments and taxable values are just slightly different. There's a lot of people that have exemptions, star exemptions that many of us have, senior exemptions for low-income seniors, veterans exemptions, agricultural exemptions. That all plays a part in the taxable value. So when I actually compared taxable values that I'm preparing for this year compared to last year, they were up slightly more than 12%. So that means even if you have an increase of 12%, you might not even see an increase in taxes. Again, all things being equal from last year. That's not to say that school budgets won't increase, town, village, fire district, which we know is going to increase. But all things being equal, we're actually, I was very pleased to see that was a little slightly over 12%. So we're all good. But again, I will be available for in-depth discussions on your personal, particular property. If you really feel that you're not in line with the rest of the market, I'll be available regular office hours. I have extra hours posted. They'll be posted online on our website and also published. Also try to get some more information about sales online, so you can take a look at, in case you don't know really what's going on in the local market. We do hear a lot of the articles I'm reading are more general, statewide, nationwide, but I'm gonna try to post some sales, not to, target anybody, so their sales are particular, like, you bought that house for that much, but I want everybody to know that this is, not one or two things that I'm looking at, this is really widespread. And the analysis is thorough. I think I hit all my points. Any questions on that? Oh, I guess the other thing would be say that after conversations with me, we'll have discussions, we'll work on your number if you're not happy with it, but if all else fails, we do have this thing called grievance day, where you can go and state your case to the Board of Assessment Review, which is not me. And maybe they'll hear you differently than me if we can't come to a resolution, but I try and I mostly succeed in resolving things ahead of that date. But that date's coming up at the end of May. It'll be the Wednesday, the 25th of May. Hearing hours are in the evening, 3 to 5 and 6 to 8. Appointments get to make to my office, but again, really that's a last resort. I really do encourage everyone to talk to me first after they do their own research. Any questions on that aspect?
No.
And my second thing is only a second certiorari case that we come to a settlement on for Chicago Valley Farms, which I sent you all the copy of the consent judgment that was prepared. Again, it's a settlement that I offered last July when we first got the hearing. I thought, okay, I can see where you're coming from. This is my settlement value. They didn't accept it right off the bat. Got an appraisal, went through a process, this and that, and we settled out that same number. So hopefully you'll agree that that was well worth it, and the number settlement is good, and that you'll agree that the terms are good, and authorize Ian to sign on our behalf, so it can go in front of the judge and be done with that one.
I'm sure the attorneys were very happy with the outcome as well.
Sure, yeah.
Kept them
The lawyer
busy.
always gets paid, right?
Yeah.
And,
Well, that has been sent around to the board, and I believe that the board is prepared to approve that cert. So I would entertain a motion to authorize Ian to agree to that settlement.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? I think we're done with that.
Thank you all.
Great.
you.
Thank you. Tilly, you sent reports to the board for planning, zoning, and building, I believe,
And the town clerks, yeah.
the town clerks, and the dog. Did we get a dog report as well? All right, don't want to leave that out. I don't think we have any board committees unless the cemetery committee has anything that you want
A
to
lot's
say.
been going on in the cemetery committee. We are now, the Friends of Spencer's Corners Burying Grounds is now an official 501c3 organization. It's state recognized and federally recognized. We've applied for a grant from the Northeast Duchess Fund. So we're expecting to hear about that very shortly. We anticipate that work will begin. We have a meeting planned on May 4th, and then a work session, preliminary work session planned for May 7th. So a lot is going to be happening. The New York State ceded the cemeteries to the town of Northeast back in 1987. And up until this point, every year, Bob and your crew have been machine mowing the area twice a season. And you're going to be doing some cleanup, I understand, brush cleanup on the side. So we're going to start to see some action in the cemetery. We've purchased some what's called D2 biologic solution. It's a cleaning fluid that you pour onto the monuments, and then over time, it seeps down and cleans the stone. You don't have to abrade it. There's no damage to the stone. And we're working with two providers at this point, MCC, which is the Monument Restoration Collaborative, and an independent gravestone cleaner. And we're going to be working there. So very shortly, you'll hear something. It'll be in the newspapers, and we're going to have a table set up at the farmer's market. And every Saturday, we'll be doing some fundraising there for Spencer's Corners, because this is going to be a long-term project and a costly one. So it's all going to be funded, not with taxpayer money, but it will be funded by people and grants who are interested in saving a piece of history. So that's where we are in the cemetery project.
Right. It's, I think it's particularly appropriate since Spencer's Corner is, in fact, the real origin of our town.
It's the oldest cemetery in Dutchess County. The first monument is dated 1701. So this goes way, way back. And some of the key people in this town are buried there, Egglestons and the Dakins. And so there's a lot of history. We're going to be doing some work on those families, and it'll be an interesting project.
Mhm. Well, it's so appropriate since before there was Millerton, there was Spencer's Corner.
Yes.
That's great. The Buildings and Grounds Committee hasn't met, but it will be meeting, because one of the things that we're going to take up is the opportunity to replace the windows in this room, in our boardroom, which are very old single pane windows. And many of the windows don't even open anymore. They've long ago stopped doing that. So we're going to replace them with thermopane, double pane, energy efficient, climate smart approved windows. And we're getting some estimates on doing that work, but we will be getting from our climate smart task force. We have, because of all the work that they have done, they have been given a grant towards some of this work, and we will be getting $3,000 towards the replacement of the windows in this room, which I think is great. Moving along, number 5, the Affordable Housing Toolbox. Just to give you a little bit of background on this, as we all know, the community has had a concern about housing, the lack of housing, the lack of affordable housing, the lack of housing in general at various different income levels. In the town, we're certainly not unique. It is across Dutchess County, it's across New York State, I think it's across the entire country. But the distress and the challenge that poses for people who are unable to find housing or unable to find housing that they can afford is immense. And the Tri-Town Coalition has done a lot of work over the past couple of years, raising awareness about the need for more housing and more affordable housing. One of the challenges to the town was to do more, and to think about the challenge of affordable housing more. And as we thought about it, we, at the same time, a grant opportunity was offered by Hudson River Housing, and of mini grants of $5,000 for municipalities and and nonprofits to undertake a project. And this gave us a perfect opportunity to put our interest and concern to work. Therefore, we have applied for one of these mini grants and were awarded the mini grant. And I'm just going to read a little bit from this document, which is going to be on the website. There are copies here on the table. But the goal is to assist the town board of Northeast, as well as village trustees and boards of neighboring towns, to become more familiar with the various tools that are available to governments in order to permit, facilitate, and encourage more affordable housing opportunities. Working with our partner, the Northeast Community Center, we propose to do this by assembling as much information as possible that would be relevant to this goal, by enlisting a professional coordinator with expertise and knowledge in this field. In the course of the project and working with our consultant, we intend to identify additional experts who are familiar with the relevant fields of housing, land use, zoning, and regulatory standards. The project would culminate in a meeting whose target audience would primarily be municipal officials, but which would, of course, be open to the broader community as well. It would be our hope to have this event take place in the late summer of 2022 or in the very early fall. The project would result in a report which could be a useful reference to town and village elected officials and planning board and other boards of zoning review committee, both in Millerton and in nearby Northeast Dutchess communities. A steering committee will be formed comprised of town and elected leaders, a representative of the Northeast Community Center, members of the local community with interest and knowledge of the subject. I'm going to chair the steering committee, and the committee will include at least one additional member of the town board. I'm delighted that Griff Cooper has had his hand up and has agreed to help with this. This project will be relevant and helpful, we hope, to the work of the Zoning Review Committee. The ZRC is presently working on understanding and revising Town of Northeast zoning regulations. Information on how affordable housing, however that is defined, can be permitted and facilitated could be helpful to its work. The town has been notified that 2 other mini grants were awarded in this town. I think grants were awarded also in Amenia and in Pine Plains to groups working on affordable housing projects. Through written reports and in-person meetings, we will share the progress of our work with other grant recipients as we progress, and we look forward to hearing about and learning from their work as well. So I'm sure you'll be hearing more about that from Griff and from me. It's a fairly tight timetable. We hope to have this complete by September. So if anyone has any questions about that, otherwise you know where to find me. We have an appropriate segue to the Zoning Review Committee and Edie Greenwood, who's here. And welcome, Edie.
Thank you very much for this new owl.
Yeah, well, the owl is watching you.
I know, and I was seeing where Catherine was standing, so I knew right where she was standing. Well, the Zoning Review Committee, which was established in the summer of 2019, so we're over 18 months old, is making progress. We were tasked with the review and coming up with recommendations as to how we can fill holes in our current zoning and tackle things that aren't even referenced in the current zoning. We've always used the adopted 2019 comprehensive plan as our guide. And that is an appropriate sequence of events. It's interesting, the library has done some community conversations, and I chuckled when I got the printout of the observations, their findings, and it so mimicked the comprehensive plan. I felt we really did have a constructive comprehensive plan. But there, that's 2 years ago. So onward. Now, I had to start somewhere as chair of the committee. And so we have a consultant, Will Agresta, who has supported both the planning and the zoning board for many, many years in Northeast, very, very knowledgeable about our situation. Anyway, I suggested, and he thought it was a good idea, that we had to find a place to start. We've got a whole code to deal with. So we chose the commercial districts in large part because on what I'll call the boulevard districts, there's the potential of an awful lot going to happen. Hasn't happened yet, but there is the potential. And so that's where we have started. We in Northeast have 3 commercial districts, not a great deal of acreage, but 3. I'm going to lump the current 6 BDs for the district into one and call it the boulevard districts. Then we have it's called HB3 currently, but we've renamed it Irondale. Very small, about 7 parcels total in that district. But it is a commercial district. And then a single parcel district in the form of Harvey's Tea, which is light industrial. But in addition to those 3 commercial districts, we are beginning, and we're really just beginning the conversation on the land conservation district. Now, land conservation are the resources that we identify that need to be protected. The one that exists now, it's called LC, is basically streams and the floodplain and some DEC mapped wetlands. It's not perfect, and our current mapping was done with the technology in the 1970s. So you can imagine not only does water move, but they didn't really have the resources. We have a number of possible approaches, and we're going to be evaluating them all. In fact, what Chris was talking about earlier is to learn about, I call them hard mapped, which is what we have now. You look at a map and you'll see LC running along streams and through wetlands. And then the concept of an overlay zoning district. And we have lots to learn, but we have got resources and they're all coming together. Hopefully we do get the, I'll call it grant, access to the Hudson River Estuary Program. And we've got some training webinars coming up specific to conservation zoning. So I think we've got a lot to learn. Now, our process has 3 steps, at least that's the way we're approaching it. And take the commercial districts. We start with uses, and we've pretty much finished uses in our 3 commercial districts and the LC. There are limited uses in the LC. Then we moved on to definitions, and we're almost through. We're finished with draft, and operative word is draft because we're going to be making recommendations to you. But we worked hard and we've got lots of logic as to why we made our suggestions. Definitions are very close to being finalized. There are a few, but I think they're all doable. And the third step is what they call standards. And I'm hoping at our next meeting, we will start addressing what we call bulk standards, and that's dry charts of setbacks and coverages and things like that. Very important, especially in what I'm calling the boulevard districts. Because what we've got now is, even the comprehensive plan said this is wacky bananas. So they need to be addressed. And the goal is to put together a package of legislation, a regulatory legislation for you to consider. And then use by the end of this year. I mean, that's certainly my goal. Because then we, of course, have to move on to the bulk of the town, which is residential. So what I thought was gonna be a 2, possibly 3-year project, maybe a little longer. I also have to mention the caliber of this committee. I'm very pleased to report that nobody has bailed on me. And they come to all the meetings, pretty much. I mean, there are legitimate reasons people aren't there, but I usually have 6 of the 7 members at every meeting. And the representation is 2 from the planning board, 2 from the zoning board, and 3 former supervisors. So there's a great depth of knowledge and experience on this committee. Also different opinions. So I think that's my report. Any questions?
When you finish that, that essentially could be viewed as we will have rezoned the Boulevard District, commercial districts.
Yeah, you know, towns like Ankrum have really made a science of this. Taking a specific problem and pulling it all the way through to a package of potential legislation. And you then go through and I've got the whole scenario, but it will require public hearings. And your attorneys will have to review. Yes.
They're just checking to make sure Warren was on Zoom,
Oh.
but apparently he is.
Hello, Warren.
Okay. I don't think we can hear him yet, but he's there.
But yes,
I'm here, yeah.
Thank you, Warren. This is important.
Anyway, there is a process, and we will follow it. And in terms of process, I'm very proud. We have led what I believe to be as transparent as possible. There are 32 sets of minutes on the town website. Could put you to sleep, but it's all there. It's all there. So.
Do you think that when we turn to the rest of the town, that might not be easier in some ways because it's the range of things that are permitted on sort of residential land is so much less?
In some respects, yes. But I think for me personally, I will have a template and probably be able to run a tighter sort of schedule because I'll know what needs having been through it in practice.
Right. So if this comes to the town board, let's just say at the end of the year, and we go through the process of holding hearings, and this is a question which may be addressed to Warren, and we legislation codifying changes that we've made to the zoning in the commercial district and LC, does that mean that we then have a new zoning plan?
For commercial districts.
Commercial districts, yeah.
We would still, as I understand it, be under the current plan for all the residential districts.
Warren, do you have any thoughts on that? I don't know if you could hear that.
Yeah, I could. That sounds right, assuming I heard everything correctly. Can you hear me?
Very well.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I'm getting feedback, that's why. So we will have to see what the zoning review committee recommends. I don't know if what they're recommending requires an amendment to the comprehensive plan. We may have to look at that and make an amendment to the comprehensive plan unless we determine that the changes are in fact consistent with the existing comprehensive plan. And of course, then we would have to codify the changes to the Boulevard District code provisions by the local law process. So yeah, generally sounds right. And even if we have to amend the comprehensive plan, I I don't see any reason why it cannot be amended simultaneously with the changes to the zoning law.
Great,
Good
okay,
news.
thank you. When you mentioned the 34 sets of minutes,
I think.
I hope everybody appreciates that that means that that committee has had 34, at least 34 meetings since it was formed. And I have said this before, but I want to say it again. We really owe you and the committee a huge thank you. And you're not done, but that's a lot of work. And I mean, it is, having watched a lot of the meetings, it is an immense amount of detail and work.
Yeah,
And-
it's very detailed. And I think that's what zoning is all about. The planning board is often said they run afoul of the definitions. The definitions are too vague.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to overdo the definitions, but you want them to be as precise and concise as possible.
So could you just, for the benefit of all of us, just describe on a particular, let's just a hypothetical parcel, the difference between uses, standards, and definitions? Uses would presumably say what could be done
Yes,
on that parcel?
yes.
And then how do standards and definitions fit in?
There are two kinds of, and we're just getting to the standards, but there are two kinds of standards. What they call bulk, and if you go into the code, you'll see there are charts. And it says X number of parking spots for this kind of business. And setback needs to be at least this. It's really just factual, nuts and bolts stuff. The supplementary or design standards deal with landscaping, signage, the softer, not as quantifiable aspects of what the town wants. And these may be the areas that have the most discussion, actually, when I think about it.
Because the town could be either more or less precise in terms of what.
Our current code, according to Will Agresta, is very light on standards.
Mhm. Right.
I'm sure there are a number of people, landscaping is a perfect example. You've got to have a certain number of trees and it got to be X caliber, if that's the right term,
Right.
in size. That
We have a
kind
libertarian code at the moment.
of too.
And then definitions, is that simply saying
Oh, it's just.
a tree is a tree or?
No, well, we don't
Yeah.
need to define it.
It's very precise, the definitions.
We're trying to be precise. And they're building blocks because the definitions we're doing now that do in fact relate to the rest of the town, the residential, they'll carry through. So we're being sort of nuts and bolts, building pieces and aware. But there are an awful lot of definitions that we don't have yet.
Yeah.
And I mean, perfect example is a short-term stay. Yeah, that's not something that's gonna happen in the commercial districts. Our commercial districts are too small. But that's one I look forward to
Yes.
addressing.
I have received a couple, not many, but a couple of inquiries from people asking whether we regulate Airbnbs, short-term residential facilities.
Well, at the moment, we don't.
We don't, no.
But
And
certainly it's something that we need to
and
address.
it's from the Supervisors and Mayors Association meetings. It's something that other communities, particularly in the western part of the county, are dealing with and passing regulations. Warren, have you worked with other municipalities on codes regulating short-term stay facilities?
Yes, yeah, we're currently starting our work in Rhinebeck on an amendment to our code. Just so you understand, the fact that we don't have it, any mention of it in our current code means that they are technically prohibited uses within the town. So we should all be aware of that. So if people cannot just say, well, you don't have any regulations against short-term rentals, so we're free to engage in that. That's not true. Technically, if it's not specifically stated as a permitted use or specially permitted use in the code, it's a prohibited use. So if we do want to allow them, we should probably start working on amendments to our code.
Okay, great. Good to know. Thank you. Anyone else have questions for Edie?
I've got a question. I'm confused. An interested buyer in, let's say, the Boulevard District, how can they proceed if they don't know what the final zoning is going to be? I mean, how could they make that decision? Suppose they decide that they want to do something that does not conform to the zoning that you're working on. Does that affect?
Current zoning is in place.
Current zoning is in place.
Yeah, until
And
it's not.
the-
So they would abide by the current zoning. Okay.
But, you know, let's be pragmatic. Chris has developed a dialogue with the person we hope will come and be an important part of our community.
Yeah.
And hopefully, we would find out what matters and whether or not it fits into our metrics. And as Dale Culver is always fond of saying, you know, we don't want to turn away a good idea we didn't think of.
No.
So certainly.
Okay, yeah.
But that actually is more on the town board out of step. I mean, we're a body that is reviewing and going to recommend to you.
Right.
So, but good stuff, I hope.
Well, we will, obviously, when we get to that point, we will have work to do.
Yeah, you're gonna have lots of work to do.
So I hope the board is ready.
I'm here to help.
Yeah. Great.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you, Edie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is we have received materials from Mobile Home Park and the Junkyard, permits and renewal of permits, and the board needs to approve the renewal of permits for the Mobile Home Park and Junkyard. So I would entertain a motion to approve those permits.
So moved.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay, the permits are approved. Next. This is a big subject. This could take hours, but I promise you it will not. Not tonight, maybe in the future. The village and the town have been exploring the opportunity to build a wastewater system here. This is something which has come up over decades. I mean, there's a long list of people who have worked on it and tried to move forward, and it has never moved as far forward as it is right now. And there has been a great deal of work done on identifying how a wastewater system could be put in place and how it would work. And one of the things which I think I've talked about before, but one of the things that is a positive is that the technology of wastewater systems, sewer systems, has changed a great deal over the past 20 or 30 years, so that they are much less bulky, much less intrusive. They don't require digging up streets for half a year. And the opportunity for a wastewater system is an important one for this community. It is, first of all, this is particularly in the village, but houses are relying on their own individual septic systems, many of which we know are not in good shape and which are very close to each other. So purely on an environmental basis, it is very desirable to have a proper functioning wastewater system. It also has enormous positive implications for the ability to attract new businesses to our town and to increase the number of employment opportunities that we have here for younger people, for all sorts of businesses. So the plan is that at the moment is that the village, which has retained the engineering firm of Ty and Bond, is looking at the actual system with a plant where wastewater would be treated. And the town is looking at forming a wastewater district, which would be, at least initially, the boulevard. So be very focused on the commercial opportunity that is there. The boulevard is something that is of critical importance to our ability to attract businesses to the boulevard. It's the elephant in the room in terms of the boulevard. So the next step that the engineers are doing is they have been planning doing a map plan and report phase, which the town has embarked on and which we've approved moving forward with. And we have been able to we will be able to use the ARPA money that we received from the federal government. And the village is going to be applying for a grant under the county's municipal investment grant program for the next phase of the village's design work on the wastewater system, which will include work for the town. The village has asked if the town could send in a letter to the county in support of their application. And I've sent a copy of the potential letter to the board, and I would like to ask for the board's approval to send this letter to the county supporting the village's application.
So moved.
Second. Any questions? Otherwise, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is passed. And I realized that I left off a resolution from item number 5, which goes back to the housing question. We have had a discussion with a consultant, with Nan Stolzenberg, who worked with the village and the town on a comprehensive plan about serving as a consultant to our little mini grant committee over the next few months. And I have a resolution which has been presented to the board, which I would actually like to ask the clerk to read so that we have it on the record.
Okay.
So we're skipping back for a minute, then we'll move back.
Okay, resolution authorizing the town supervisor to execute a consulting agreement with Community Planning and Environmental Associates to assist in conducting planning activities relating to housing opportunities in the town and surrounding municipalities. Whereas the town has received a mini grant from Hudson River Housing, Inc. to conduct a Housing for the Community program, and whereas the town needs to engage the services of a consultant as an independent contractor to assist the town in conducting planning activities relating to housing opportunities and surrounding communities. And whereas a proposal has been submitted to the town supervisor by Nancy Stolzenberg, doing business as Community Planning and Environmental Associates, to provide those professional services, a copy of which is annexed here too. And whereas the attorney to the town has reviewed the agreement and has advised the town board that the agreement is acceptable in form and substance. Now therefore be it resolved that the town supervisor is hereby authorized to execute the said consulting agreement between the town and Community Planning and Environmental Associates in the same or substantially similar form as provided to the town board.
Okay, could I have a motion to approve that resolution?
Second.
Yes, why don't we do a roll call?
Supervisor Kennan,
Aye.
Councilman Cooper,
Aye.
Councilman Fideli,
Aye.
Councilman Midwood,
Aye.
Councilwoman Morrison.
Thank you. Now we're gonna jump back, we get back on track with item number 9, which is a resolution approving the town's application. This is the town applying for the same grant program for fencing for the highway garage. Fencing is not included in the bid package that was the contract that was signed for the highway garage that was signed this week. Those of you who've been up there and been by it know that there is fencing along Route 22 along the front of the site, but there is no fencing around the rest of the site. And particularly on the southern side of the site, there are residences there and businesses there, and access to the site would be relatively easy. So it would be important for us to fence the site in. There's going to be a lot of equipment there, a lot of valuable equipment, and we don't want either to suffer from theft or vandalism, and we certainly don't want people getting into the site and getting hurt. So the opportunity to apply for a municipal investment grant for our site, which is shared between the village and the town, seems like a good opportunity. So with that, we have a resolution authorizing me to prepare and file an application for municipal investment grant. Just for the board's knowledge and to remind myself, the grant application is due by the 4th of May. So I've got work to do, but I would like to ask the board to approve this resolution. And could you read this one as well?
Okay, resolution authorizing the town supervisor to prepare and file an application with Dutchess County for a 2022 municipal investment grant, MIG. Whereas the Dutchess County Municipal Investment Grant Program traditionally awards funding on a competitive basis to entities who have taxing authority. And whereas in 2022, the county has set aside funding to support local initiatives that champion community priorities and improvements by municipalities. And whereas the application for such funding must be filed by 3 p.m. May 4th, 2022 via the Dutchess County Grant Portal. And whereas the town board has determined that the town is in need of the installation of a fencing in conjunction with the highway garage project, and that the current bonding appropriations and available grants for the said project do not currently include fencing for the site. And whereas the town board has determined that it is essential for the site to have proper secure fencing to prevent financial loss to the town and the village resulting from theft or vandalism. And whereas the town board has determined that it would be in the best interest of the town to submit an application pursuant to the 2022 MIG program for such fencing in the amount of $150,000. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the town supervisor to submit the appropriate application to Dutchess County for the 2022 MIG program for fencing the highway garage site in the full amount of $150,000 and to execute any required documentation or submit all materials required to be submitted in conjunction with the said application.
Thank you. Would I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved. Second.
Could you conduct a roll call on this one?
Yes. Supervisor Kennan,
Aye.
Councilman Cooper,
Aye.
Councilman Fideli,
Aye.
Councilman Midwood,
Aye.
Councilwoman Morrison.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Public comments? Public comment?
If anyone from online wants to comment, just use the raised hand feature on Zoom. I can unmute you.
Okay. Supervisors report. It's in here somewhere. I have a budget adjustment with an expense increase of $1,384, less an expense decrease of $1,384, the net of zero. Can I have a motion to approve the budget adjustment, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I should just also say that Warren, I'm sure we're done at this point. So if you want to excuse yourself, you can.
If you don't mind, I
nope.
wouldn't, I would, it's been a long day. So,
Thank you
good
for
night, everybody.
attending, and we look forward to seeing you in person
absolutely.
down the road.
Absolutely. Okay, have a nice weekend, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
I have a special abstract dated March 29th, 2022, totaling $665.74, broken down as follows. A fund, $665.74. Can I have a motion to accept the special abstract?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. I'll send that around for people to sign. I have an abstract dated April 14th, 2022, totaling $346,643.64, broken down as follows. A fund, $254,357.47. B fund, $334.05. DB fund, $60,203.71. Capital projects H1, $27,037.32. ARPA, $3,990. T and A2 escrow, $472.50. Payroll T and A, $248.59. Could I have a motion to accept the abstract?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
No,
What?
minutes.
Oh, your minutes.
The minutes.
How did I forget them? And voucher committee. This is what happens when I put my list aside. All right. Rewind.
Pass that one around.
Rewind the tape here. Voucher committee for May is Ralph Fideli and Griff Cooper.
Mm.
And we have two sets of minutes for approval, which Tilly has presented to you. The minutes from the meeting of March 10th. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of March 10th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes of March 10th are approved. And I have set of minutes of March 16th. Could I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion is carried. With that, let's try
Pass
again.
that around. We have to sign it.
Yeah, you've got some work to do still. But let's just make sure that we've got our work done. I think we have our work done. All right, with that, I accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Usually you're a little faster than that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
You,
What do I have to,
no, I don't know.
is there something to sign here? No, that's been signed.
That worked nicely.
Have you turned this off?